Last week, I was back on the road. I was in Virginia. We zigzagged down to West Virginia, and then we zigzagged back up to Virginia. And Jen, my business partner who's in the chat, she was with me. It was her first trip on the road for this kind of reporting. We covered tree protests. We interviewed a mother and a daughter who had climbed up in their trees on their property for over a month to try and stop the trees from getting cut down because the oil company has seized their land via eminent domain and basically was trying to cut down their trees so they could ram the pipeline through the Terry's property, which has been in the family since the 1600s from a land grant from the Queen of England. A land grant from the Queen of England. So I went down there, I interviewed them, I covered a press conference they were doing. Then we went down to West Virginia on the night of the primary there, where Joe Manchin, that corrupt motherfucker, Senator Joe Manchin, did win re-election. However, progressive challenger Paula Jean Swearengin got 48,000 votes, over 30% of the vote, which might not sound like anything, but if you're a no-name 1 year ago and you get 48,000 votes, Manchin got 111,000. She got 48,000. That's not nothing. And those 48,000 votes were from her going door to door all over the state, north to south, east to west. She was outspent over $4 million to, I believe, like 200,000. So there is progress being made. But if you missed it, let me just give you a taste of some of what I did out there. Here we go.
You know, polluting the water, since when is profit more important than water? When is profit more important than people? And I don't understand that. And I told someone, I said, you know, the Terrys, we have right much property up here. You know, and we've been the land stewards for this property, and we've tried to keep it under, you know, not developed, mainly wildlife. Our bear population has quadrupled. Our deer, our raccoons, our skunks, our fox. I mean, we have the huge owls. You can hear them at night. The whippoorwills down there, which are endangered. They're down there nesting on the ground. And they've just dropped trees where they're going to bulldoze all that shit. You know, why is profit more important than the planet? Why is the people in West Virginia and Pennsylvania that have been complaining to their governors and to anyone that'll listen that they can't drink their water? They can no longer drink their water. The gas company has to bring water in for them to drink, and to do that they have to sign gag orders so they can have drinking water. And it's the play-by-play book for the gas companies and the oil companies. You work the people, you wear them down because they've got the money. You wear them down, you go through their resources fighting you, and then you destroy everything they own. And then they're just grateful to have you bring them clean water because you've poisoned everything around them. You've poisoned their livestock, you've poisoned their pets, you've given their kids cancer. You've got people walking around with boils all over their face. People who worked for the pipeline have radiation poisoning from dealing with the wastewater. You're dumping the wastewater on the roads to melt snow. The scientists have said, you know, the half-life of some of these chemicals they're dumping out is 1,000 years. So why are our fucking politicians letting this happen? Why are they able to poison people because someone's contributing to their campaign so they can be the big guy in the White House? Fuck them all. You know, they're supposed to care about the people. They're not supposed to be destroying the people. And this damn plant they're putting over in the poor black neighborhood where they're going to put the compression station. The compression station. Who the hell's going to fight that? They're already poor, but they're going to walk over the poor. And I have a relative who lives right up the road from me. He planned on making that his retirement home, and they were going to run the pipeline through his land. And they said, "Oh, don't you worry, we're going to give you about 30 grand. And he looked at him and said, "I pay that quarterly." And he said, "Last year alone, I made $1.6 million, and I will keep you in court till hell freezes over." And guess what? They missed his fucking land. They rearranged everything just to miss his land. Because they don't want anyone that can fight back. They're a big fucking bully, and they don't want to meet another bully. Well, they pissed off a redhead. And we don't forget, and we don't forgive. They have flattened. MVP never leaves their cars. They always leave a guard. But when my sister-in-law drove up, when they were surveying, she had to park and follow the surveyors. When she came back and drove home, something was wrong with her car. She pulled in and there was a screw in her tire. Because we always get screws in our tires on the road. And a couple days later when she came up, drove home, oh, a nail in her tire. Because we have nails all over our road up here. That's how we keep them, you know, screws and nails. But they won't leave their vehicles unguarded because God knows they wouldn't have tires on theirs. But yeah, they keep guards everywhere.
Damn, Red. Tell them how you really feel. Tell them how you really feel. I mean, Red and her daughter, first of all, you gotta see it. And Jen was with me. These women, Red is 61, her daughter is 30, were literally protested at the top of trees for over a month. Started out freezing temperatures, ended pretty hot. Imagine how stiff your body is. Imagine how out of sorts all your systems are being up there. Then they get out, and literally within, I think, a day, 2 days, they go on a statewide tour to colleges. They went to that church they talked about, to the Capitol. I mean, this woman is a tour. Both of them are forces of nature, literally nature. But the thing that stood out to me, it's like the playground, you know? How do you push back on a bully? You punch him in the fucking nose. Now, I'm not endorsing punching people physically, but I am endorsing punching big oil figuratively. Because it's gotten to a point in America, the legalized bribery that we live under, the legalized bribery system that we live under, is forcing people to literally have to sit up in a tree on their own property that's apparently not their property anymore because eminent domain has been bastardized. Eminent domain used to be used. So the federal government could like build a highway or build some schools, you know, build things that helped all of us and the public. Now it's being used so oil companies could literally ram natural gas pipelines that could potentially explode right under their property for gas that we don't even need. I spoke with person after person after person in Virginia. They don't need this gas. The existing pipelines now are only at 50% capacity. They don't need these pipelines. But you know why they're doing these pipelines? Because we have a corrupt system in this country where the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, which is literally the regulatory agency that approves or disapproves pipelines, they literally have not rejected a pipeline since the 1980s. That's when I was born, folks. And share this video. Let's get it out to more people. They have not rejected a pipeline since the 80s. And do you know that the oil industry funds the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission? Yeah. So for the Dakota Access Pipeline, it was the oil companies that hired their own independent consultants to evaluate the environmental risks. So the oil company is paying for the testing that FERC requires or the Army Corps requires. FERC is literally, its funding comes from big oil. That would be like Hillary Clinton's campaign issuing a poll on what people think of Bernie Sanders. If Hillary Clinton's campaign was paying for the poll and operating the poll, you think you're going to get true answers back from a poll on the progressive movement or support for Bernie Sanders if it's Hillary Clinton's campaign doing it? It's unreal. It's unreal. We need to create the media we want to see. I'm trying my best. And here is an example of how passionate I am about this. This was me in the forest where they have cut down hundreds and hundreds of beautiful trees, all to put a pipeline through the Appalachian Trail, which is some of the most pristine land we have. If you missed this, here is my, let's call it a rant, shall we?
This is about this. I mean, look at this destruction. You're not going to see this anywhere. You think CNN's coming up here? Please. Yeah, if you could prove Putin cut down the trees, they'll be here in a jiffy. This is what we need. We need more attention on, it's not just the destruction of the planet or the country, but it's the destruction of basic humanity. We talk about, you know, we started a revolution against tyranny in Great Britain. Well, what the fuck do you call this? This is tyranny. And I'm not supposed to say that because I'm a journalist, but I just speak the truth. I mean, tyranny is when you're controlled and you don't have freedom. And this is tyranny. And, you know, it's been difficult for me the last few months because, you know, I had surgery and other things. I couldn't get back here and show this. But this stuff is happening all out in the open. It's just that our media is completely bought off. YouTube, the platform I'm on right now, is literally suppressing journalists that are not from CNN or bigger outlets. They are suppressing us so you can't see the truth. Maybe their corporate advertisers wouldn't like this. But this is what's going on. And it's not just environmental. There's a lot of corruption involved with this. There's local Virginia Congressman Goodblatt, I read about, that has a blatant conflict of interest. He's invested in a holding company that's invested in these pipelines. I mean, this is legalized bribery on steroids. And by the way, one of you, I think, said it, or Red said it. These oil companies, if they would get their brains on connected straight, he could make just as much money, if not more money, if they shifted tomorrow to solar and wind without destroying people's property and not to mention the water and the animals and, you know, all that. So all I ask, if you can contribute so we could stay, literally, you should see what we're working with here. Jen is not a camera person, but she's my camera person today. We barely have a working microphone. We barely have anything. We're starting from the ground up here. So if you could contribute to the Patreon, this is what it's for. Patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. If you don't want to do monthly, you can make a one-time contribution to my PayPal, paypal.me/Jordan Sheridan. But I'm not, you know, I'm not interested in reporting on like Rudy Giuliani and stupidity he says, or, you know, Russian trolls and all this bullshit that doesn't matter. This matters right here because I think he said it best. If they could come and do it through the Appalachian Trail, by the way, they're doing it through the Big Bend region in southwest Texas. I covered that pipeline down there. Before you know it, they'll say, too bad that your kids go to daycare there. We need the gas, so to speak. Because these, and by the way, I've covered this enough. It's not only about the money for these oil companies. It's about unfettered power. These are people that something is lacking. Something is lacking internally, particularly empathy, not to mention a few other things. So bottom line, if you can't contribute financially, share these videos. Don't just share the videos, but get on Twitter, get on Facebook, get on everything you're on. Write a separate post with these videos. You know, the hashtag is Stand With Red. The hashtag is No MVP.
I played that for two reasons. Number one, to hear the birds chirping. And number two, because somebody complimented me on that I've been working out, saying that I looked buff. I have bad news for you. Whoever complimented me in the comments, I haven't been working out. I just had back surgery. That was a really tight shirt. False advertising. I haven't been working out. If you see me without a shirt, you'd probably run. It's not a pretty picture right now. But thank you for the comment, whoever did it. But really, seriously, I was stunned. And, you know, Jen isn't with me, but she could say it in the chat. We were going up this mountain. And by the way, I just had back surgery. So Jen could also tell you, when I was not on camera, I was icing my back on this trip. I probably shouldn't have even gone out on this trip, but I find this story to be super important and it has to be shown. But literally, some of the most beautiful forest lands you could ever find. Hundreds of trees cut down. It's like a maze to have to walk around these trees and branches and limbs. It's vile, but you see no reporting on this. None. I went to interview an environmental lawyer who's helping the family. It's on the channel. You can watch all these. It's the corruption being used so that these oil companies can put in an unnecessary pipeline is staggering. And Jen just said it best, and I've told you this before. When I was at Standing Rock, people are getting shot at and tear gassed at and grenades thrown. And then you go back to your hotel and they're tweeting, you know, they're reporting on CNN about Donald Trump tweeted something nasty. It was the same thing. Jen would go back to her hotel room and put on CNN, and she would text me, now I know what you're saying about how infuriating it is with the alternative reality being shown. Because we're seeing what's really going on in the country. And you are seeing what's really going on in the country because we're trying to show you. And we have more videos from that trip coming that we did not do live. We went down to Buckingham County. There is a church, a historic church called the Union Hill Baptist Church. There are slaves that are buried in a graveyard next to the church. Slaves, when they were freed, came up to this church. There are worshipers that go to this church today that are descendants of slaves. It is an 85% African-American community that goes to this church. So, of course, let's put the pipeline and the massive, massive compressor station that is going to be emitting methane, particulate matter, carbon dioxide. Let's dump it right in the church's backyard.